Hi, my name is Lorie Greenberg, and I'm a sexual assault survivor, and it's time for me to tell my story. I'm a 42-year-old woman. I'm a single mother. I'm a sole income earner for my household. I've been teaching at my school AP Calculus for the last 20 years. I pride myself on being a fantastic teacher. I get the kids to love calculus. I get them to think differently. I get them aware of both their physical and emotional and mental well-being. I'm their mom while they're in my classroom. I love them. I need to go back to June of 2020. I went on a first date, and I knew something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on it, and I didn't trust my gut. And he was really handsy, and I tried to, without confronting him, just get him to stop. Watch the movie, eat dinner, but he wasn't really having it. And he kept touching my butt, and I was uncomfortable. And so I told him, I tried to set boundaries. I said, "You're making me uncomfortable." And his response was, "I'll show you uncomfortable." And he choked me hard. And with his free hand, he violated me. And I froze. I was terrified. I didn't know what was next, how violent it could be. And when he was done, when he was satisfied, I left. I went home instead of to the police. I went home instead of to a friend. I'm a single mom. My kids were coming back the next day. I just needed to get myself together. It took a few days for what had happened to sink in, but after it did, I started experiencing PTSD symptoms and panic symptoms, nightmares, flashbacks, fright when I was in public places, like very typical trauma responses. It was hard, and I was struggling, and people knew, but I just had to keep going because I'm a single mom. I just had to keep momming and keep working and keep doing my job to the best of my ability. And then 8 months later, I had a friend over, somebody I really trusted, a cop, a detective, another single parent, somebody I'd forged a good friendship with, somebody I'd known for 5 years, somebody who was safe for me. And we were talking really, really late one night. He was here, and it was really late, and he told me he couldn't drive. It was too much. And so I said, "Stay," which should have been fine. We're two adults, and we have a good friendship. And he ended up sleeping next to me in bed instead of on the couch, which we'd done before. It should have been fine, except this time I woke up at 4 a.m., and he was on top of me. I didn't wake up right away. I couldn't understand what was happening. It didn't make any sense to me. But my pants were below my knees, and he was on top of me, and he was forcing himself inside me. And I froze. And the only thing I could get out of my mouth was that I wasn't on birth control. He finished, and he left. And I tried to make excuses for it. I tried to reason it into something smaller, but I had a really bad PTSD response this time. Really bad. I mean, I was in my bed. I was in a safe place in my own house. I was asleep. It was so violent. I should have been safe, but I wasn't. And it confused my brain. My trauma response was very real. And I was having bad nightmares and bad flashbacks, and I had a very hard time sleeping alone in my house. I had a very hard time sleeping in my bed. I was seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist and floundering at work. And my union rep knew and my supervisor knew, but nothing happened. And I just kept working because I'm a single mom and the sole income earner for my household, and I didn't have a choice. But I was really, really, really struggling. And my principal at the end of June of 2021 made it clear to me that he had given me a lot of space out of respect, I think he had said. Meaning I hadn't seen him or spoken to him in months, But that was okay because it was out of respect for me. And he just wanted to make sure that I knew that there was no room for the behaviors that had been tolerated during the spring of 2021 when we came back for the new school year in September of 2021. So I knew I needed to get it together. So I found an intensive therapy program. I did a 10-week outpatient intensive therapy program to deal with trauma. And it helped a lot. It gave me coping mechanisms. It helped me understand the body's response to trauma, the brain's response to trauma. It gave me some powerful tools to deal with what I was dealing with. And I went back to work in September of 2021, and I was doing a lot better. I wasn't perfect, but I was better. I did struggle sometimes. There were still nights that I couldn't sleep. There were still daily triggers that, daily stressors that were happening. And the union and my supervisor knew I was struggling. And I was never written up, but it was intimated to me that I needed to get it together, that they didn't know what I was going through, that nobody could, but that I wasn't doing enough. So I tried harder. Cut to January 2022. I had a verbal altercation with a kid in the hallway who was cutting class. Not one of my students, just a random kid. I didn't know him. He yelled at me very aggressively, which I found triggering. But what was very upsetting was that even though I got him to an administrator who didn't discipline him, and even though he was sent back to class, who allowed him to continue to wander the halls, he came back and he shoved into me in the hallway. It was about 30 minutes after the verbal altercation, and I happened to be in the hallway counseling a student whose dad had been in the ER the night before, and this kid comes back staring me down the hallway, and that, aggressive eye contact was enough. It made me freeze, and it made me panic. And then he walked right into me, shoulder to shoulder. He shoved me. And then I had a real panic response. It wasn't handled well. There was no medical professional called on my behalf. The student was not disciplined in accordance with district code or state law. And then I started to be antagonized. I was told that the fact that I took the day off after was unprofessional. I was told that I lacked empathy for the student. I was told that I exacerbated the situation. I was scapegoated. Nobody ever said to me, "Hey, Lorie, we see that you're really struggling and we need to help you. Maybe you should take some time off and seek more therapy because these violent assaults that you endured are having an impact on you and we care about your well-being, and so you should go get healthy." None of that was said to me, nor did anybody in my building or in the union suggest to me to get a 504 plan, which is legal protections for somebody who's struggling like I am, like I've been, to have accommodations made so that I could feel more supported in my building. None of that happened. Instead, I was antagonized by the union, by my administration. I was even threatened by the union with a psych eval, that the district could throw me out at any moment for a psych evaluation. It's not true, but they threatened it. I was having a trauma response, and instead of my people, my family, being supportive, they just told me to get it together. So I did my best. Because I'm a single mom and the sole income earner. I did my best, but it wasn't very good because I started having really bad nightmares again and really bad flashbacks, and I didn't know what was safe and what wasn't. And I requested a leave of absence in the beginning of February to try to get some care for myself, and it was ignored. It was like I didn't even say it. And I ended up having to stop showing up at work at the end of February using sick days, in order for them to actually take my request for that leave of absence seriously, and that's when it was processed. But as soon as I put in for that leave to try to get myself help and to try to get myself healthy, the district and the union have been antagonizing me and threatening both my career and my financial stability. My pay was threatened immediately, and I've had to jump through hoops to beg for sick pay, which has been denied over and over and over again. I work for the 8th largest district in the state. They have the system and the ability to grant me paid sick leave in order for me to seek medical treatment right now because I need it. But they're choosing not to. They're making the choice to proceed without compassion and without support for a 20-year veteran teacher. What they're doing isn't technically illegal because there's loopholes in the contract. They could deny me for any reason. They don't need to explain. But that's not moral. That's not just. I haven't gotten a paycheck in over 2 months. I have a mortgage to pay. I have to feed my children. I got bills for healthcare for my district. They're not paying me a paycheck, but they're sending me bills for my health insurance contribution. I had to start a GoFundMe. I didn't have a choice. I had no money to pay anything. There's been no money coming in for 2 months. And, you know, that GoFundMe is 80% funded by my former students. And it means so much to me. But it also makes me feel a little ashamed. I'm supposed to be their caretaker, and I was. I was their mom. I was their cheerleader. I was their teacher. I was their emotional support. I was an outlet for them, a safe space, a safe person, a safe adult, a trusted adult. I took care of them the way I was supposed to. And now they're taking care of me, and it means the world to me. And I appreciate you guys, but it shouldn't be this way. The laws in New Jersey are pretty good for sexual assault victims, but they're not good enough. Because if this is happening to me, this is happening to other women. It's not like an episode of Law & Order SVU where a woman is raped and then everybody comes to support her. This woman was raped twice, and it makes people so uncomfortable that they turn away. They pretend it doesn't exist. And they show me no compassion. Thank you for listening to my story. Please help me share it, and please help me advocate for change.